Do you have any idea what the most lucrative year for credit card rewards points was? Like a dollar amount?
I would say easily in the past 10 years, it's exceeded $100,000.
That's so crazy. People need to separate wealth building from credit cards because the last place that you are going to be building wealth is through your credit card.
People get obsessed with building their credit score when really they should be building their net worth, right? That's what you should become obsessed about.
Welcome back to the Fiscal Clinician Podcast, where we help healthcare professionals build wealth, crush debt, and achieve financial independence. I'm your host, Josh Sheen, doctor of physical therapy and financial coach. And with us today, we have a very special guest, Spencer Reese. He is the founder of the Military Money Manual podcast and website. They have now done 225 plus episodes of podcasting. So congratulations on that, man. That's incredible. And he's also the author of the Military Money Manual, a practical guide to financial freedom. And as a military spouse, Spencer's systems have helped me, my wife, and I redeem over $5,000 of travel rewards in 2025, really the first year we were trying it, without increasing our spending at all. And so, Spencer, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining us, man.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, I think you've got a great niche audience there that a lot of times falls through the cracks, right? A lot of people like to talk to doctors and other medical professionals, but sometimes there's a whole ecosystem out there. So I'm glad that you're talking to the PTs, the OTs, the nurses, and I'm sure there's some docs out there too. So,
totally.
But thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hop right in, Spencer. I know credit cards can be such a polarizing conversation because you have the Dave Ramseys of the world who are like, don't ever touch a credit card. And then on the other side, you have people who are really trying to play the credit card game, if you will. So what do you feel like the biggest lie from the credit card industry is when it comes to credit card points and travel rewards?
I'm not sure if this is the biggest lie, but it's definitely a lie. And the lie is that you can earn enough points and miles to take a vacation every year just based on your spending. So if you only have one card, let's say a Chase Sapphire Preferred, for example, one of my favorite beginner cards. Once you earn the welcome bonus, it'll say like earn 100,000 points when you spend $6,000 in the first 3 months, right? So about $2,000 a month. Most Americans who are eligible for a credit card can probably meet that minimum spend. So that's not too bad. 100,000 points, you could probably get 2 round trip economy tickets, pay for a hotel. It could definitely pay for a weekend away. If you transfer it to the right travel partner, there's potential that you could maybe get first or business class availability depending on where you're going, what you're doing. But then if you just keep that card and just keep putting all your spending on that card, unless you spend a lot, and I'm talking about, let's say, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, it's very low probability that you're going to earn enough points to then take another vacation or get another flight or get another hotel with that card. So I think that's one of the lies, is that people think, oh, I just open up one and done, right? I open up one card, that's going to fund my vacations for the rest of my life. I would say that you can earn some cash back. And I do know some people that they'll fund their Roth IRA account, for example, with the cash back that they receive on like a Fidelity 2% card or an American Express card that they cash out through Schwab at 1.1 cents per point. But a 2% card, if you're trying to max out a Roth IRA, $7,000, oh, that's a lot of spending. That can be quite difficult. So I think that's probably one of the things that's not very clear to beginners, is that if you do want to earn a lot of points, you got to focus on the welcome bonuses. And the spending categories don't move the needle as much as people think.
No, that's a great point, because I think people can just think like, I'll just get the credit card and then have 2-3 vacations a year or something. That's not how it works, bud. But I think another misnomer too is credit card companies try to sell the rich life to the middle class through the credit card company. And people need to separate wealth building from credit cards, because the last place that you are going to be building wealth is through a credit card, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. People are obsessed with building their credit score, right? Like I knew this guy when I first joined the military. So I was just out of university, and he kept a loan around, or maybe he went and got an auto loan, but he did something really dumb with his money because he said, oh, this is going to help me build my credit score by having a different line of credit. Than I was baffled by this. Like, why would you care to build this imaginary number? Once you're over 720, 750, there's no bonus
Doesn't
points,
really matter.
right? There's no club you get into when you have an 800 or 850 credit score. And the rates that you're getting on loans, once you're above 720, 750, there's no reduction in what you're paying on a mortgage or an auto loan. It's all excellent credit, right, above that. Yeah, so I think that people get obsessed with building their credit score when really they should be building their net worth, right? That's what you should become obsessed about. For as much time as people put into like understanding their credit score and building their credit score and getting the right card and figuring out, okay, I can use this card and I get 4x points on groceries, and I can use this card and I get 3x points on travel, and this card I get 2x points on gas. If they just invested a tenth of the time into what low-cost, automated, diversified, simple investing strategy should I select? What index fund should I be going in? What's my 401k match? How much should I be putting into my 401k so I ensure that I'm getting 100% return by receiving a dollar for dollar match? Right. If you just put a tenth of the time that you put into credit cards or into your credit score,
so much more wealthy. And I think it's totally a misnomer for everyone, but for healthcare professionals too. Like, they're trying to play the credit card game sometimes instead of investing. And we know how much more important investing is. But a lot of times the healthcare professionals, they'll have a moderate to high income potential depending on who they are. But then they'll also have a really high amount of debt often. Like, the average PT student's going to come out with $110,000 to $130,000 of student loans, unfortunately. Wow. And so, like, how much more important that focus is. And I know you've worked with military families for years, and honestly, I think healthcare professionals have a lot in common, from the high stress to the demanding schedules, specifically to delayed financial stability. What similarities do you kind of see between those two worlds?
I do get to talk to a lot of military families through my mentorship, militarymoneymanual.com, and also people reach out on Instagram and via email. And a lot of them actually are also healthcare professionals, right? We have nurses, we have doctors in the military ecosystem. And then a lot of them are also military spouses, right? Because these are jobs that travel easily. But there's a reason that's the stereotype. And that's not obviously every military spouse. But I do see a lot of similarities where the biggest things are your three biggest expenses, right? So for most American families, and this is true whether you're in the military, whether you're a healthcare professional, but it's going to be housing, transportation, and food, right? And so if you can focus on dialing in those three things, that's what's really going to move the needle in terms of your lifestyle and in terms of your expenses. And if you focus on the things that move the needle, right? You set a savings rate. Let's say it's 10% or 15%. You pay yourself first, so you save off the top. If you can build the automated system that starts to build your wealth automatically, and you can make the single decision that removes 100 future decisions, that is how you're going to create the environment in which you can thrive. I read this great book called Don't Shoot the Dog, and it talks about how when I got a dog a couple of years ago, and he was driving me crazy, right? Because I never had a dog before. And I didn't know how to train or how to interact with my dog. One of the lessons from the book was create the environment in which the dog can thrive, right? So if you don't want the dog to go into a specific room, put up a gate, right? Totally. Like, make it so that the dog can physically not go into that room. And I've applied that principle to myself and to a lot of my clients as well, where it's create the environment in which you can thrive. And so for most healthcare professionals, for most military families, that's setting up automatic systems of saving and investing so that you don't have to make a decision every month. Okay, am I putting this in the S&P 500? Am I putting this in my 401k? That doesn't work for people. People are busy. People are distracted. People have lives to live. For the healthcare professionals out there who are graduating and they're in 6 figures of debt, you need to start attacking it, right? But you need to create a system where you're making your debt repayments, and maybe you're making a little bit extra debt repayments, but you're still leaving enough margin there for you to live and for you to have an enjoyable life. And that might mean for the first couple of years where you're out of school that you don't have your own place, that you have roommates. It might mean that if you're married and you have kids, that both of you are working, when your preference would be that one of you stayed home. And maybe you do the math and you say, no, you know what, one of us are going to stay home. But make sure that you're creating an environment in which you can thrive. And I think so much of that for both military families, for healthcare professionals, it's automation, right? So if you can automate your savings, automating your investing, automating your debt repayment, and then For those healthcare professionals out there who are graduating, I graduated with $60,000 of student loan debt. I got married to my wife. She also had $50-ish thousand of student loan debt. And we read the Dave Ramsey Total Money Makeover. It's a great book if you're just trying to figure out, like, how do I get out of debt? And then we took that gazelle-like intensity and just directed it towards crushing our debt. And we managed to pay off 6 figures of debt in less than 4 years.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
And yeah, it was really good. And here's the trick, right? Is once you've done that, now you need to direct some of that cash flow towards investing, towards building wealth, towards savings, towards creating the financial engine, right? That's going to power the rest of your life.
That was all amazing stuff about investments. Let's start and talk about some of your experiences with credit card redemptions. Spencer, when you started this journey with credit card points and miles, what was the redemption where you were like, oh my gosh, this is why we do this. This is why we put all this energy into figuring out this credit card game?
There was a couple, but one of them was we were living out in the United Arab Emirates, and we went and stayed at a Ritz-Carlton in an area of UAE called Ras Al Khaimah. And it was $1,700 a night for this bungalow, and it had a pool outside, and you basically have your own stretch of land that went out to the beach. It was completely private, and there's maybe 16 or 20 bungalows at this resort. And so we had an outdoor pool and an outdoor bath and an outdoor shower, and we had like a cabana down the way to the ocean, even further away. And it was just us, right? You couldn't see anybody. It was completely private, and it was amazing. And we paid $0 for it, right? Like, it was like a free night certificate plus a couple points. I think we ended up staying 2 or 3 nights. Yeah. And that was one of those times I was like, oh, wow. If you worked it out on like how many cents per point we got, it was a tremendous value. Another one was we were living in Hawaii, and we booked ANA first class on their Honu, so their turtle-looking A380. And we booked that to fly out from Honolulu to Tokyo and then return. Nice. We were just going for a week. And those tickets, it was first class. It was $27,000 round trip. Gosh. Insane, right? Nobody's paying cash for that. And we managed to get it for 11 cents per point, right?
Oh my gosh.
So that is huge.
That's incredible.
Right? If you'd earn those points by booking with an American Express Platinum card, for instance, you'd be getting 5x points on an airfare, plus now you're getting 11 cents per point. So you're getting 55% cash back effectively. So that one got pretty crazy. I'll give you one more. We were living in Hawaii, and we went to the Wailea Beach Resort, which is a Marriott property. We were living on Oahu. We hopped over the pond, and we stayed there for the weekend, and we used points, a free night certificate, and we had such a great time. And we were free the next weekend. I said, do you want to come back next weekend? And my wife was like, yeah, sure. We were watching whales. We were going kayaking in the ocean. And our flights were on Southwest, so they were like $50 each one way. Sure enough, we looked and there was points availability. So we just transferred some Chase or Marriott points over and booked it again for the next weekend. And we went back, and the only thing we paid for was the airfare and food.
That's incredible.
And we're getting these multi-$100 night hotels, and we're just like, both times we had views of the ocean. We're watching whales breach and blow, and it's just incredible. And so obviously that's not something we would have done if we were paying cash, where we were just like, let's go back to the same hotel the next week. But when you're using points, when you're using miles, it just frees you up to just explore the world on your terms.
Yeah. I definitely remember this wasn't the only one. There was multiple, but the most recent one, since we live in Louisiana now, was in New Orleans, where we booked a 5-star hotel there, and it was in an amazing spot. They have the most luxurious shower we've ever had. We went there and checked in, and they're like, we do deliver coffee to the room every morning. What time would you like to come in? And we're like, oh, nice. And then like, it was just the most relaxing, chill, best uninterrupted time for my wife and I to explore New Orleans. And again, it was a 5-night stay at that 5-star hotel, and we did not pay a single cent. And so it's just a way that you guys can figure out, how can we experience maybe a little more luxury without more money out of your pockets, right? And so, Spencer, I don't know if you know the answer to this. Do you have any idea what the most lucrative year for credit card rewards points was? Like a dollar amount?
I've never sat down and actually worked it out. I would say easily in the past 10 years, it's exceeded $100,000.
That's so crazy.
And that's without including the annual fee waivers that we get as military service members. Here's a great example. The other day, my parents and one of their couple friends were going to Italy, and When you're going to Europe, it's a night flight. I was checking their itinerary, and I know that Emirates operates a fifth freedom flight from JFK, New York City, to Milan, and then to Dubai.
Oh, okay.
But you can just book the individual sections too. So you can just fly New York to Milan. I can either get you there or I can fly you back. And they said, we're starting in Northern Italy, then we're working our way down to Rome. And the flight back from Rome to the East Coast is a day flight. So it's not so important to be in business class, right? And so I was able to get onto Emirates, and I booked 4 business class one-way tickets out of JFK to Milan. And I was able to fly them in business class. And those probably were maybe $2,000 tickets each. So like right there, boom, $8,000 saved. And just using a bit of Chase, maybe a bit of Amex points that I transferred to Emirates. And I think that's a great point too, where it's not just about you, right? Like you can enable luxury travel, or you can enable experiences for friends, family, loved ones. And the other thing that's a quirk is a lot of times people don't want to accept things, right? So like even if you had the cash to buy in business class,
that's true.
Let's say you're not gonna do that for us, right? But if you're like, oh, I just got these points and they're just sitting there and they're not doing anything, like you can't invest, you can't use miles. Technically, you could.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you want to do the Schwab,
But if you just say, look, these points are just sitting there, I'd rather the whole concept of earning and burning, right? So like when you earn the points, you want to spend the points that year or probably the next year, because what happens is, and you'll see this with, especially like with the hotels, with the airlines, is they devalue, right? You used to be able to book a round trip business class flight for 50,000 points. And now it's 100,000 points. And next year it might be 200,000 points. And so it's just, they're making it harder and harder as there's basically points inflation. They're making it harder and harder to earn these redemptions.
Well, and I will say it's a very unique perspective from active duty military members because they have these annual fee waivers, right? And so the strategy is somewhat different, but $100,000, if you got a tenth of that, which I think is very realistic, over a number of years, you're still talking $10,000, right? And even if someone captured a small percentage, that would be a huge deal. I know there's so many amazing credit card redemption stories. You just gave us multiple examples, but unfortunately, there's honestly a lot more sad stories of people struggling through credit card debt, paying 25 to 30% interest because their whole shtick was like, oh, I'm going to get all these free vacations. And then that happens. And so I wanted to talk to our listeners about some financial foundations and what's important before playing the game. And so, Spencer, what do you think are like the most important financial non-negotiables that should be in place before they start chasing these credit card rewards or points?
Yeah, great question. I would say you need to have your financial house completely in order. This is an advanced strategy. I would say if you have debt of any kind other than a mortgage, this is not a game for you to play. Direct your energy, your attention, your focus on smashing that debt. If you don't have an emergency fund, this is not for you. If you aren't getting your full 401k match, if you're not saving and investing, let's say 10 to 15% of your take-home pay, this is not for you. And I always reiterate to my listeners and readers, credit card debt is not an option. And if your natural spending isn't going to enable you to earn the welcome bonus that's offered, if it's spend $6,000 in the first 3 months, so that's $2,000 a month, and you're like, I usually spend about $1,500 on gas and groceries. Sorry, like
don't do it. Not worth it.
Come back. Yeah, not worth it. It's absolutely 100% not worth it. This is a cherry on top. This is when you've got all your other wants and needs completely met, and if you're the kind of person who is using an app or a spreadsheet to keep track of your credit cards, to keep track of your benefits, or you're willing to, okay, now we can have this conversation. Let me introduce you to using credit card points and miles to book almost free hotels, almost free airfare. But until you have those very basic building blocks completed, this is not something for you. And that applies even if you're in the military and you're not paying annual fees. I don't care. My advice is stay away from this until you've got a game plan. And part of that too might be not necessarily a budget, but I'm a big proponent of the anti-budget. So do your savings and investing first, and then spend whatever's left over, right? I use Monarch to keep track of my spending. And what's fascinating is some months it's up here, some months it's down here. But if you look at the average over a year, it's $2,000, it's $3,000, it's $5,000 a month. And as long as you're kind of aware of where your money's going and then ensuring, is it aligned with my priorities? And I think for a lot of people, when they're getting started, they don't know where their money's going. And this is where a tool like YNAB or Monarch Money, or there's a whole
Every Dollar,
Rocket Dollar. There's a whole bunch.
Many.
But just pick one. You can even use a spreadsheet, right? And actually, with the AI programs, what might be really good is if you have been using a credit card or a debit card, is to log in, export your transactions for the last year, throw it into Claude, throw it into ChatGPT, throw it into Gemini, and say, categorize these, and then give me a pie chart. Show me where I'm spending. And you might be shocked. You might be like, oh my gosh, I thought I wasn't spending that much on going out to eat. And it turns out I'm spending $2,000 a month on a DoorDash and Uber Eats and going out to eat and all these other things. So I'm going to focus on, what do I actually get value out of, right? I get value out of going out to eat with my friends. Okay, that's the priority. The Uber Eats, the DoorDash and stuff, that's not the priority anymore. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sign up for one of those meal delivery programs, and I'm going to get a bunch of frozen meals delivered to my house, because basically all I'm doing with that Uber Eats or that delivery service is I'm hungry and it's too late to cook and I just need to eat something now, right? Yeah. And so if you have something that's healthier and that's available in your fridge or in your freezer, you'll pull that out, you eat that, and then that keeps your costs down. And then you can focus your spending on, I'm still going to spend $1,000 a month going out to eat with my friends. I love doing that because it's social. It's how we stay in touch. It's like, what's the point of life if you can't go out to dinner with your friends? So
I love the points that Spencer made, even if it's not a traditional budget, right? He kind of referred to something, sometimes it's called reverse budgeting. What's the terminology used?
Anti-budget.
Whatever you want to call it, right? But you need to have some kind of plan before you even start this credit card thing of, okay, I have a system to see how much I'm spending a month, how much is going towards certain categories, because if you have no idea where your money's going, then you very well could be one who is paying 25, 30% interest because you're not tracking your spending properly. We did a credit card episode. If you haven't looked at that, check it out. But the big rules we say, there's 3 different things. Number 1, never spend more than you have in your bank account on a credit card, and treat it like a debit card, just like Spencer just said. Number 2, set everything on auto pay, and specifically auto pay to pay the statement balance, not just a minimum, because you're going to be paying a percentage if you're just paying the minimum. And the last one is never carrying a balance on a credit card. We even recommend, if you have been carrying a balance in the last 3 months, stash the credit cards away. Don't touch them until you are current, you're all caught up, you're just using your debit card until then, because there is no point in the world that's worth 25 to 30% interest, right? And I know Spencer talked about a potential 50%, but that's the outlier, right? And so you have to work the system.
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
No, it's a very crazy redemption. But guys, get your financial house in order before you start playing the credit card game. And I had one additional question, Spencer, for you about student loans specifically, because we talked about trying to make sure you have all your debt paid off, right? And I think one argument from a professional who they just graduated and they're like, hey man, I've got a plan, but I've got $105,000 in student loans. It's going to take me a while to pay that off. Can I start using those credit cards responsibly while I pay off my student loans?
Yeah, I would say, and this is a conversation because I'm known as the don't buy a house guy in the military. And people always very sheepishly come up to me and they're like, hey, Alex, I've run the numbers and we're going to retire here. Is it okay if...
They're like walking on eggshells.
Yeah, because I don't know. I'm not that scary of a guy. And I'm like, do you have any savings? They're like, yeah, we have a full 20% down payment and we have $2 million in the stock market, right? And I'm like, yeah, go
buy your house, please.
Why? Go buy a house. You're fine. You're going to do great. I'm really proud of you. But it's the same thing with, I do talk to people like this where they're like, hey, I still have $100,000 in debt, but I have a 3-month emergency fund. I'm putting 10% into my 401k. Additionally, I'm maxing out my Roth IRA. I have savings accounts galore building up for, my honeymoon and the wedding, and my car's paid off. I don't have any other debt other than the student loan debts. And actually, for some people, they might be saying, I'm making the minimum payments on that because I'm doing a public service loan forgiveness program. And PSLF. And then I had a dentist on the podcast the other day. I think he was getting $500,000 forgiven. That's
crazy.
And I was like, yeah, just make the minimum payments. Sure. And he was like, can I get a credit card too? I was like, yeah, sure.
Do what you want to do, man.
Yeah, you've got this figured out. So again, the point is, hey, if you got your financial house in order and yet still you have $100,000 of student loan debt, don't take your eye off the ball, right? Like if it's important, treat it as important. Get that debt paid off. In the meantime, if you're like, hey, can I go get a Chase Freedom Flex or a Chase Freedom Unlimited card, start my relationship with Chase Bank, which is going to enable me to later down the road get a Chase Sapphire Preferred or a Chase Sapphire Reserve. And in the meantime, I'm going to earn, sometimes they have spend $500, get a $200 bonus. And that's pretty easy for most people to hit.
Right.
And it kind of dips their toe into the points a mile game. And yeah, just like your 3 rules there, Josh, treat it like a debit card. Do not carry a balance.
Yep.
If you have been using a debit card for a year and you've never dipped into an overdraft situation, you're meeting all your obligations, you're making all your payments on time, and then you say, look, I think it just makes sense to pick up a card that's paying me 1% cash back. That's an extra 10 or 20 bucks a month. I could get a haircut or something.
Sure.
I think as long as you have a plan and setting up auto pay, I think that's something that you've brought up a couple times here. Yep. But here's the thing is, when people have credit cards versus when people are paying in cash, I can't remember the exact percentages, but there's been multiple studies done on this. When you have the credit card, you tend to spend more money. Yep. And just treat it like an experiment. Just see for the first 3 months or whatever, did you actually spend more than when you were using the debit card? Or did your spending pretty much, line up? And I think for most people, especially if you're doing your savings automatically and right away, not with whatever's left over at the end of the month, but no, the day that you get paid, all your automatic transactions go and swiftly move your money into your accounts and into your investments. And on the 401k side, that's coming out of your paycheck before you even
see it. Yep.
Deposited. So you're creating an environment in which you can thrive. Yep. And if you're still paying off $100,000 of student loans, but you've got a solid plan and you want to just go get a cashback card or even a travel rewards card, if it fits into your budget, make sure you can cover the annual fee. Yep. Make sure that you can earn the welcome bonus. Yeah, go for it. You don't have to delay this until you're completely debt-free because it might take 5 or 10 years.
Yeah. I think the important distinction again is just if you have a detailed plan, like we said, sure, go for it. If you don't have a plan for your money, it is not the time to be diving into credit card rewards. Make sure you're investing. Make sure you have some kind of plan for your money before you dive into this. Okay. Spencer, let's kind of change gears and talk about some tacticals with the credit cards specifically. And we kind of covered this before, but the question often comes up, where do points come from? Is it the welcome bonuses versus the spend multipliers? And obviously with the military, the strategy is a little bit different because you can open so many annual waived fee cards. But as a normal civilian physical therapist or healthcare professional, what does that look like? Should they be prioritizing spend multipliers? Should it be more the bonus or kind of a mix?
Yeah, I often get this question also in the military community as well. And I always point out the fact that the people who are most into the points and miles game are not military, right? Like they're civilians. They're paying the annual fees. And one of my favorite sites I'll give a shout out to is doctorofcredit.com, actually started by medical professionals. They were both docs, I'm pretty sure. And they have a current welcome bonus list that they maintain on their site. And it's excellent. It's one of the great resources of the internet. And what you'll find, though, is that there are a lot of times you can earn a lot of welcome bonuses without paying too much in annual fees. Especially for your medical professionals out there, you might be operating as a sole proprietor, as a contractor. Sure. You might be receiving 1099 income. You might be receiving per diem. And you can open up business credit cards if you're running your own business. Employee of one or employee of none if you're a sole prop because you are the business. So yes, I think that there are a couple really easy wins, right? Like the Amex Gold Card, for instance, just under $300 annual fee. And it's 4x points on groceries, U.S. supermarkets, and worldwide restaurants.
That's our go-to credit card. That's the one we by far use the most.
And that was my go-to credit card for years as well, always in my wallet. Now I live overseas and Amex is just not accepted as much. So my daily driver is basically my Chase Sapphire Reserve. I would still, on the civilian side, if you're paying the annual fees, I would still prioritize the welcome bonuses. And I would say that there's some great apps out there. One of my favorite is Travel Freely. You can load your cards that you currently have in there, and it keeps track of when your annual fee is coming due.
Sure.
And on the military side, it's such an easy no-brainer because you don't have to think about this. But on the civilian side, it's always a good time, 45, 30 days out before your fee gets charged. And this Travel Freely app made by my friend Zach has this feature. It will ping you and say, hey, your annual fee is coming up. It's time to assess, what do you want to do with this card before you pay the annual fee? Are you getting value out of it? If you're getting value out of it, keep it open, keep going. maybe you're not getting as much value out of it, but you want to keep the points around. So maybe you're going to downgrade this card to a no annual fee version. So for example, let's say you open up a Chase Sapphire Reserve card, $795 annual fee. You might say, wow, the first year I got a lot of value out of this card because I got a 150,000 point welcome bonus. I got all these other like benefits. And then maybe year 2, you still use some of the credits, you traveled a bit, but maybe year 3, maybe you've had a kid, maybe you had a second kid and you're just not traveling as much as you used to. Life changes, right? And that's absolutely okay. So just do assessment, say, am I getting value out of this card? And maybe you're not, and maybe it's time to downgrade it from a Chase Sapphire Reserve card to a Chase Freedom Flex or a Chase Freedom Unlimited, a no annual fee Chase card that you're going to earn cash back points on.
Yep.
And that keeps that credit line open, so it preserves your credit score, which we said don't obsess about, but you don't have to do damage to it intentionally.
Sure.
And so you can downgrade this to a Chase Freedom card, and then you can keep that credit line open. And then let's say your kids grow up and you want to travel to Disney World and you're doing more traveling, you can just upgrade it back to a Chase Sapphire Reserve again. Or there might be an opportunity to open up another Chase Sapphire Reserve several years later and earn the welcome bonus. Each card issuer kind of has their own rules about this.
Yeah, that's a great point though, because I think people can often think that they're stuck with this one credit card forever and like they can't change. If you get a higher annual fee, but realize it's not worth you owning that card, then just downgrade it, right? I know it's easier to do on Chase's format. I know Amex, you can't really, you can downgrade the gold to a green, but you can't really downgrade it to one without an annual fee.
On the Amex side, it's platinum, gold, green, and even the green has a $195 annual fee.
Well, let's talk about transfer partners. Should transfer partners be a part of each time you redeem credit card points, or should that be kind of a bonus?
I've always used transfer partners. The 2 or 3 ways that I think about redeeming points. The easiest is cash, right? So for Chase points, you can always just cash them out, a penny per point.
Yep.
Amex, you have to have an Amex Charles Schwab Platinum card. And then you can cash them out at 1.1 cents each. It's a little bit harder. You have to open up a separate card. You have to have a Schwab account. But Chase is 1 penny per point. Boom, they'll cut you a check or they'll direct deposit it.
Yep.
Actually, even easier than that is like using them on like Amazon or like
yeah, you had that one friend who cringes you out because he always redeems on Amazon. Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. It's tough to watch. But you can cash them out on one of their partners like Amazon. You can cash them out like for cash. And then you can use the travel portals, right? And the travel portals are actually, I think they're a great way, especially for beginners, to kind of dip your toe in and see like, oh, there's this flight from Duluth, Minnesota to Miami, Florida, and it's winter and I want to go get some sunshine. And I can use my Chase points. And a lot of times they also, in the Chase portal, they have points boost, right? So the points are worth 2 cents per point. There is potential to use the travel portals. I try to not use them as much because booking directly with the hotel or booking directly with the airline is always so much better from a customer service perspective.
I've heard some nightmare stories from you.
Yeah. So when you book through the travel portal, and if you ever need to change anything or cancel anything, you're going to be talking to the airline's going to say, go talk to Chase. Chase is going to say, go talk to you're like caught in this terrible limbo and the customer service is just atrocious. So I try not to do that, but it is a very easy way to redeem points. And then finally, the most value is transferring to a travel partner. One of my favorite is Chase to Hyatt, right? So Hyatt hotels, not as big as Hilton, not as big as Marriott, but I think they have really nice properties all over the world. And you can get tremendous value. So you can stay at the Park Hyatt Tokyo. It's probably like, I don't know what its average nightly rate is, over $1,000 though, I'm sure. And you can stay there for as little as 45,000 points. So you're getting over 2 cents per point. So if you earned a $100,000 welcome bonus on a Chase card, right there, that's a 2-night stay at the Park Hyatt Tokyo, and you just save yourself $2,000.
Yeah. If you want to make your points stretch and work well for you, then transfer partners are an absolute. And also transfer bonuses, right? Certain airlines or certain hotels and even other programs will run 25% additional points here if you transfer to our company, right? And so if you're trying to stretch your points and make them really work for you, these are really helpful and good strategies. And I know for people that are new, if someone's just considering starting the credit card game and the points and miles game, what do you think the one biggest mistake for beginners is?
I would say a couple things. One would be just getting overwhelmed and not doing anything, right?
Sure.
Like, especially when you can open up a no annual fee Chase Freedom card or Fidelity 2% cashback card, right? If you're not earning at least 2% cash back on every single purchase or more points and miles than that, like Amex Platinum, 5x points on direct airline purchases, then yeah, I think you're just missing out, right? You're already paying for that if you're using a debit card because everybody just inflates their prices by the 2% credit card transaction fee.
Yeah.
So you might as well be getting that back in your pocket. So yeah, a simple 2% Fidelity cashback card. There's other 2% cashback cards out there, but just something basic like that, I think is a great place to start. The other thing is with the Chase Sapphire Preferred, right? So if you're doing any travel, it comes with built-in travel insurance, like really good travel insurance.
Especially the car rental stuff.
Yes. That was the one I was going to bring up was that is immediate money back in your pocket. When you show up to the rental car counter, it is primary rental car insurance on the Chase Sapphire Preferred card. So when they say, well, would you like to upgrade to the $45 a day full insurance package? You say, nope, my credit card's got it. Thank you. And that's right there. Boom. On a 10-day rental, you just save $450.
Have you used that? You had a crash or an issue where you had to use it or no?
Ooh, no, I haven't used it. I have used their other travel insurance products, and it's a bit painful going back and forth, like, oh, send us this document. I will say on American Express, this was a huge one. I had booked tickets from Miami to Paris for my grandfather, and he had an accident. He was fine, but he just couldn't travel, right? And we had booked non-refundable business class tickets, and they were like $7,000. And I had booked them through my American Express Platinum card, and I knew it had travel insurance, but I just blanked. I just like forgot that it did. And it wasn't until like months later, someone said something, and I was like, oh my gosh. But I think it was because it wasn't in my name, right? I think it was because I booked for him.
Fair.
Well, but sure enough, in the terms and conditions, it specifically says like grandparents are that if you book, like are considered like immediate family. Right. And so I was like, oh my gosh. So I submitted a travel claim, and all I needed was like a note from his doctor, and the money showed up.
Dang,
so
that's amazing.
And I think that one was for up to $20,000 per year.
Dang,
so
that's awesome.
Travel insurance can really save you. And it can be something as simple as a family's traveling, right? And the flight's delayed. And then, oh, it's midnight, it's canceled, come back tomorrow morning, right? And by that point, everybody's lining up to like get free hotels from the airline, which the airline's like, no, we're not paying for a hotel. But if you just have a Chase Sapphire Preferred card, just be screenshotting things as they come in, go to a hotel, get the receipt, go travel out the next day, and then submit all the paperwork and say, hey, we had a travel delay. Here's my evidence. Here's my hotel. Here's the food that we bought. And just file the claim, and it's amazing what's covered. That's always been a pretty easy process. Yeah. People just don't have that, especially if they're more of a newbie traveler, right? As soon as I hear a flight's canceled, right, I'm looking for the other flight I can get on, or I'm just, especially if there's an airport hotel, boom, I'll just make a booking straight away, right? And then that secures the room, and then I just go there, and if the flight's rescheduled for tomorrow morning, I've got the hotel room booked. I might even start the claim then and there and upload the receipt, but just like at least initiate, hey, on this day, I had a travel delay.
Yeah. I'm grateful I haven't had to use it yet, but I'm definitely waiting for the time that I get to use it because they're always on a card where I can use that benefit. So that's awesome, man. Well, real quick, Spencer, I loved your episode 147 on the Military Money Manual podcast, where you guys talked about strategy for if someone wants 1, 3, or 5 credit cards. I basically wanted to do a take on this for our listeners and make it a little more minimalist, like a 1, 2, 3 strategy. So for the minimalist, if a person's only getting one credit card, what would you suggest and why?
If you just want one credit card, it depends if you're traveling or not. If you are traveling, Chase Sapphire Preferred, pay the $95 annual fee. If you don't travel that much, or you don't care about travel rewards, you want cash back, the Fidelity 2% cash back card, or any card that's paying 2% cash back. That's for the one card. For the 2 card, I would just have those 2 sitting beside each other. Sapphire Preferred, putting your restaurant purchases, flight purchases, travel stuff on there, and then everything else goes on the Fidelity 2% cash back card. I'm also a big proponent of having a joint card that all your joint expenses are going on, and then you each have your own individual cards that your individual expenses are going on. And that fits well into a 3-card Monty situation where you have the card that covers almost everything is the Fidelity 2% cash back card. And then one of you has a Chase Sapphire Preferred card for travel. And then the other one has, let's say, an Amex Gold card. And that's for groceries in restaurants. And I would say that's a pretty good stack right there.
Yeah.
That gets a little expensive though.
Yep.
$95 for the Chase Sapphire Preferred plus I think it's $295 for the Amex Gold card.
Yeah, I was going to say, and if you're not trying to stretch your value as hard and you still want to try like a 3-card strategy and keep it super simple because you're staying in the same ecosystem, you could do Chase Sapphire Preferred and then do Chase Freedom Unlimited and Chase Freedom Flex, because then you're literally paying $0 annual fees for those last two. You're paying the $95 for the first one. There is some overlap of the value, but at least then from the Freedom Flex, you're getting those 5% rotating categories. The Preferred's only $95, which is pretty minimal. If you're trying to do a 1-card strategy and you're really grocery, Amazon, and gas heavy, the American Express Blue Cash Everyday card is a really nice $0 cash back card. You can't use it for travel rewards, so that would be more of a cashback style card, but that's always one thing that you could look into too. To wrap up, the biggest thing is kind of knowing yourself with these strategies. If it brings you joy to stretch points and to make them work as hard as you can, then do that and have fun with that. Be an optimizer, but be responsible with it, right? And if adding an annual fee stresses you out, just pick a card or two without an annual fee. Then at the end of the year, you didn't have to get a certain amount of value to make it worth it, right? And if it's helpful to be simplistic for you, then just choose a layout that's clean with one ecosystem. You don't have to have multiple logins. You can just make it easy on yourself. Spencer, did you have anything you wanted to add before we close out?
Just to your point there, Josh, this is supposed to be fun. So it's supposed to be a hobby that adds value to your life. If you're stressing out about this, if you can't keep track of cards, if you're missing payments, if you're paying credit card debt, you're doing it wrong. So, and it's okay. This isn't for everybody. It is actually a pretty wonky, pretty nerdy thing to do. You can get a lot of value out of it. I tend to talk about it a lot because I just think that the value you can get out of it on the military side is absurd.
It is.
Because you're not paying the annual fees.
Yep.
On the civilian side, it's just one more thing to do.
Yep.
So if you're into Warhammer or Dungeons and Dragons and you like numbers and rolling 20-sided dice, this is probably an activity for you. If you're more of a hang out with the boys on the weekend and you like going for hikes and stuff, like just go do that. You don't need another spreadsheet in your life. In most couples, I tend to find there's usually like the money person and the less so money person. Yeah. And if you're the money person and you're excited because it's like, oh, one more spreadsheet to make and one more thing to keep track of, go for it. It's fun. Yeah. And you can have some tremendous experiences. And there is a certain joy from when you board an aircraft and you turn left, right? And especially when your partner, who's maybe the not credit card person, is, oh, wow, this is cool. Yeah. This is nice. And thank you for making this possible for us. Yeah. And it's a good feeling to provide that for your loved ones.
That's awesome. Spencer, it's been such an honor to have you on the show, man. Thanks for coming. I know we talked about being able to find you on militarymoneymanual.com. Where are some other places that our listeners can find you if they're looking?
Yeah, the book's on Amazon and on my website, The Military Money Manual. I'm on Instagram at Military Money Manual. We're actually starting a community soon. So there's going to be an app. And this is actually the first time I've ever talked about this publicly. So you heard it here first.
Nice.
On this podcast. But we're going to get a community going soon. So check it out. It's all going to be over at militarymoneymanual.com. That's the hub for the courses, for the book, for the podcast. Oh, yeah. And the podcast, like you said, we're over 200 episodes now, and that's anywhere you can find podcasts. And we finally crossed 500 5-star reviews.
Wow,
so
good
super
for
stoked
you guys.
about that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, me and my buddy Jamie, we've been hosting that for over 5 years now. And it's so much fun. We get to talk about money and the military and, making military service members wealthier and happier and less stressed about money.
Yeah. I love it, man. Guys, takeaway from today's simple: set your financial foundation first. Invest consistently, automate everything you can, and then if you want, you can use all these strategies to optimize your lifestyle with credit card points and miles. Spencer, thanks again for joining us today. It was such a blast being able to chat with you, and we'll see you guys on the next episode of the Fiscal Clinician Podcast.